Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting, Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Boutros?
Here.
Harmon?
Here.
Larson? Whitbeck?
Here.
Morris?
Here.
All right. We are all present. Moving on the agenda, any conflict of interest declarations from any commissioner? Seeing none, we'll move on. No special presentation, so it takes us to our consent calendar. So I would entertain a motion to accept the consent calendar.
I make motion.
A motion from Commissioner Harmon and a second from Commissioner Whitbeck. Any discussion?
I was not at that meeting, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay. And that was Commissioner Boutros saying he was going to abstain because he was not at that meeting. Any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so now we'll move on to our procedure. So this is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We serve in both a decision-making capacity and an advisory capacity to the mayor and the city council. There are two types of public hearings that this commission conducts. The first is a legislative hearing whereby we formulate recommendations on certain land use requests. Our recommendations are then forwarded on to the city council, who makes the decision on the legislative matter. The second type of public hearing is quasi-judicial in nature. A quasi-judicial hearing involves the consideration of a land use request, such as the annexation, rezone, classification, or approval of a subdivision preliminary plat. The public hearing procedures are required by Idaho Code, and they are as followed. Oral and written testimony will be accepted from those who have signed in to speak prior to the hearing being declared open. When providing testimony, please come up to the podium and state your name and address, which will be included in the record. Staff will present a report regarding the application being considered. Then that's followed by public testimony. The applicant or the applicant representative will present a summary of the request for no more than 10 minutes. Testimony for those in support will be taken, followed by those in a neutral position, and finally those in opposition to the request. And all of these testimonies thereafter are 5 minutes. And then the applicant will be offered the opportunity to provide a rebuttal testimony for no more than 5 minutes. After the rebuttal testimony is given, the public testimony portion of the public hearing will be closed and no new oral or written testimony will be allowed. And so with that, we'll move on with the agenda there's no old business. We're now item 8 of our agenda, which is new business. The first action item, there's a request for continuation. So with that, so this is action item case number ANN 23-10, PUD 23-7, and SUB 23-13. I would entertain a motion to continue this per staff request.
So moved.
This commission, would that be to continue it to February 14th?
Yes.
All right. So there was a motion from Commissioner Larson to continue the aforementioned case to February 14, 2024. Is there
Second.
a second for Commissioner Boutros? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. So that will be continued to February 14, 2024. Moving on to action item 2 on our agenda, that's case number CUPM 23-12, ZON 23-10, SUP 23-16. Kinley Horn, on behalf of Dome Church Apartments LLC, is requesting a future land use map amendment to change the designation of parcels R02653 0000 and R02657 00000 from traditional neighborhood to high density residential, to include approval of Resolution 322-23 associated with CPM 23-12, a rezone from TN traditional neighborhood to R3 high density residential with a development agreement and a special use permit from an affordable multifamily housing development with 152 units. The application is being submitted in conjunction with a lot line adjustment application and a vacation application to combine the 2 existing parcels and adjacent vacated right-of-way into a single parcel. This site is located on the this site is located just south of Interstate 84 between North 14th Avenue and North 16th Avenue in Caldwell, Idaho. And with that, staff report, please.
Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Katie Wright, Associate Planner, Cleveland, or 621 Cleveland Boulevard. The applicant for Domes is not here yet. I don't believe. Is there any way that staff could request that we switch the agenda items to hear the next one first?
Just point of clarification, do we need to take action or can we just move on with the agenda and come back to it?
Morgan Bisa, Planning and Zoning. One moment, they're trying to find out if the applicant is online waiting and not coming in person.
Okay. And just while we're doing that, just Commissioner, there are at least one person on Zoom that wants to testify. So we will have a Zoom testimony here in a minute.
So
And in addition to several others, yes.
typically, if we were going to amend the agenda, you would make a motion to amend the agenda and then approve the motion.
Yeah. Do we want to do that? Is that still the request? All right. So I would, we'll keep this action item. We're just going to amend the agenda to ensure that the applicant and the representative is here. So I would entertain a motion to amend the agenda to modify new business. So subsection 8, so just move action item 3 to a new action item 2. So just flop 2 and 3. So 3.
Moved.
Okay, that was Commissioner Whitbeck.
Second.
And a second for Commissioner Larson. Any discussion?
Harmon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner Harmon made that second. Any discussion?
No.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So now with the amended agenda, for those that are following the printed agenda, we're going to action item 3, which is now 2. So that's case number. So I'll call this here, open this public hearing for case number ANN 2-27, SUB 22-44, PUD 22-11. Zion Ventures LLC is requesting annexation into the city of Caldwell with a zoning designation of R2 medium density residential with a development agreement associated with ANN 23-27. Concurrently, the applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary development plan and preliminary plat for the Jhawk Creek planned unit development consisting of 72 residential lots, 13 common lots, and 1 shared driveway lot. The development is proposing a total density of 5.25 dwelling unit per acre. The subject parcel is located on the west side of South Florida Avenue, approximately 650 feet north of the intersection with East Ustick Road. And with that, staff report, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Katie Wright, Associate Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Before you is Jhawk Creek, ANN 2227, PUD 2211, and SUB 2244. There were some late exhibits that consisted of comment from Caldwell School District, an amenity plan, and an updated landscape plan. The project location is 13.77 acre parcel located on the west side of Florida Avenue, approximately 600 feet north of Ustick Road. The site has frontage along Florida Avenue. The project site is currently surrounded by Caldwell High School and residential to the north, residential and ag to the south, residential to the east, and Brothers Park to the west. All applications apply to the entirety of the parcel. The applicant is requesting an annexation with the initial zoning of R2 to meet the comprehensive plan. The applicant is also requesting a planned unit development with a preliminary plat. Tonight's request consists of the applicant's proposal for annexation with the initial medium density residential zoning. The proposed development is surrounded by low density and medium density residential to the north, county ag, community commercial, and low density residential to the south, medium density residential to the east, and low density residential to the west. Staff finds the medium density residential is a good zone for this parcel to bring it into conformance with the comprehensive plan. The proposed comp plan designation and development is medium density residential is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The site is surrounded by public and medium density residential to the north, medium density residential and business to the south, medium density residential to the east, and open space, public, and high density residential to the west. The proposed densities are in compliance with the medium density residential planned unit development in the comprehensive plan. The proposed land use of planned unit development is a specially permitted land use within the zoning district. The applicant is proposing a development consistent of 72 detached single-family homes and 13 common lots. The proposed development project has been analyzed for compliance with city codes and policies. With the planned unit development code, the applicant is requesting the following deviations. The applicant is proposing lots that have 37.5 feet frontage for Block 2, lots 2 through 19, and 21 through 28, rather than 45 feet. A 7.5 rear setback for Block 2, lots 2 through 11, and 21 through 28, and a 12.5 rear setback for Block 4, lots 2 through 5. Internal side setbacks for townhome lots to be 0. Waive requirement for additional parking spaces for lots less than 45 feet requirement through the PUD, and lots ranging from 3,400 square feet to 5,200 square feet rather than the 6,000 minimum. Public agencies were notified and asked to provide comments. Only agencies that had concerns were Caldwell School District had sent in 2 comments, one being a late exhibit that you were provided today. One of these is showing the routes most students would walk to Caldwell High School from this subdivision. They're requesting these routes be safe for students, that no pathway connection through the baseball fields. Written comments were provided from Vernon Dennis, the previous owner of the property. This letter does not state if the citizen is in favor, opposed, or neutral, but wanted to make clear his specific concerns, such as potential foul balls hitting homes from Caldwell High School, access locations, and the utilities that are currently located under Helena Drive. And written comment was received by Kathy Hubbs. This letter is in opposition of the development. She mentioned she's concerned with traffic, noise, and view obstructions from current residents. The site-specific conditions are as follow. Staff is requesting a few modifications. First off, for condition 29, the applicant shall provide an updated preliminary plat rather than landscape plan, showing the linear park and pathway along the Caldwell Low-Lying Canal as directed in the 2040 Bicycle and Pedestrian Master Plan prior to City Council. The Bike and Pedestrian 2024 or 2040 Master Plan specifically calls for a linear park along this portion of the Caldwell Low-Lying Canal. And then the applicant shall provide an updated landscape plan that matches the updated plat prior to City Council. The applicant shall install 7-foot sidewalks along Florida Avenue. The Caldwell City Landscape Plan Reviewer has determined that the 10-foot land use buffer between the school to the north and this development is not necessary due to the vast separation currently existing. An official lot split of parcel R2744201 to reflect the current Canyon County tax assessment lot lines must be approved through Canyon County prior to submitting for construction drawings. Staff recommends removing the following condition. Buildable lot sizes range from 3,822 square feet to 5,501 square feet in accordance with the approved preliminary plat. This is because of condition 29 for the pathway potentially changing the lot sizes, and these numbers no longer being accurate. Any further conversation with Caldwell School District and contradicting agency comments, staff recommends adding the following condition. The applicant shall meet with the Caldwell School District to discuss pathways and come to an agreement prior to City Council. Staff recommends that if P&Z Commission recommends approval of the request, that such request is subject to the conditions as specified in the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and order of decision. And I stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. All right, questions for staff from commissioners?
I have several questions. Would like to give the other commissioners an opportunity to ask first. Dave?
I can just clarify. You said,
Commissioner Larson.
yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to clarify, there are some spots where it said 84, it's 72, correct? For the number of quantity of houses?
Yes, it is 72. There was a change in that.
Okay. And then I had a question about that density stuff, but I think you answered most of that. So I guess we have to see new drawings for that. I did have a clarification question, and I keep asking about these policies, but on page 110, policy 2-4, it says allow for higher density development as a means to support public transportation. how does higher density help support public transportation?
Chair and Commissioner, staff would say that higher density supports public transportation. It allows more of a need in that area, providing more reason to put stops there.
Okay. And I think those are all of my questions for this one. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Okay.
Commissioner Boutros.
Oh, thank you. Don't move, but what I want to do, I was glad to see a letter come in from Caldwell School District, but it did not contain an affirmative statement that they can accommodate the projected capacity of students. You can infer that, but I would like a very clear, yes, we can accommodate statement. If that's possible, can we get that now, or do I need to wait and ask that question later?
Chair.
I'm gonna jump in. I don't know if that is appropriate for staff to answer that. I think the onus.
I can wait to ask Paul later.
Sure.
Okay.
I just think it's important to recognize the onus on that is for those that want to provide to public testimony, provide that information. And so we can't.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I can ask that later. So the original package showed the PUD requires 4 amenities. The original package only shows 3. There is an amenity page that came with the late exhibits, and it looks like they have increased the number of amenities. Is that correct?
Chair, Commissioner, it does go more into detail, that document. So what they're showing on there, they would be held to if approved.
Okay. So it looked like, I wasn't completely certain which of those features were considered amenities for the purposes of the PUD. If, for example, is the outdoor seating and seat wall such an amenity? Or fire pit, sidewalk? I just, if we could run down that list and talk about hitting at least 4, then it's a non-issue.
Chair and Commissioner, so for the required optional amenities in the PUD, it is kind of up for interpretation. However, it wants to be taken by the Commission and Council. It's kind of up to the Council's discretion, if that makes sense.
Okay, it just specifies a minimum of 4. Continue. Currently, the on-street parking is extremely limited, and this is contributed to by the requested waivers on lot widths as you described. Not sure that that's a very good idea. We will talk some more about that. I don't see any extenuating reason to grant the requested waivers. If there is evidence why those waivers should be granted, we need to hear that evidence tonight, because I didn't see anything in the package that would justify that. The R2 designation actually looks inconsistent with the surrounding area. It looks like a zoning of R1 would be more consistent with the surrounding area if you look at all of the different housing that's around us. Sorry, I had a comment in here about the lack of the school. That's not relevant anymore. Sorry. There's a typo on page 110. It says residence with a T. It should be residences with a C.
Thank you.
Pages 115 and 188 have incorrect dates for the commission hearing. Apparently, it was originally written up for last December 13th. On page, never mind. This is another school district one that is not relevant. And page 209 has a typo of the name Jhawk. I know you want me to catch these.
Thank you, Commissioner. If you want, we can go over these, and then I can make sure that they're approved by signature.
As long as you're aware that the typos are there, I'm confident they'll be fixed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm going to just jump in and maybe ask staff just for pointed for clarification for us for the expediency of just our process. But if there are typographical issues like that, what's the best way? Is this the forum to do that, or could we offer those that are like nuanced, like spelling or stuff like that? What's the best way to provide that?
Thank you, Chair. I believe that staff as a whole would prefer email in advance, then we can just quickly change it and make sure that all of it's fixed before signature.
Okay, so
Would you agree?
is that fair? Just like some of those, because I caught a couple too that I was curious about the dates, for example, from the FCO was because it was continued to this meeting. So, so moving forward, maybe ask the commissioners if we see those things, pass those on, and if they're not substantive and just typographical, we can address it.
Thank you.
You have more, Commissioner Boutros?
That's all for now. Obviously, we're going to have some kind of a discussion about the zoning, but that's all for now.
Thank you.
Yeah, Chair, I had one fast thing. Again, with the code review, just for you guys to know my stance on this, it said that it's near neighborhood and shopping districts and recreational. For my thought process for you to know, I was thinking 5-minute drive time would meet this, and I feel like this is within 5-minute drive time of the Walmart and stuff that's nearby. So that's my stance on why I think that this meets that R2 density of it needs to be near these type of amenities.
Thank you. All right, any other questions for staff? If not, I would thank you, and then I would ask Emily Mueller, who has signed up as the applicant or the representative, to come up to provide their information for no more than 10 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Emily Mueller. My business residence is 839 South Bridgeway Place. We appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight to present this subdivision, Jhawk Creek, and are grateful for staff's time, for Katie's time, working with us on this project and being able to get their support. We're appreciative of that. Let's see. Okay, wonderful. As Katie mentioned, the project site contemplates or is consistent of 13.77 acres at South Florida Avenue. It's about 660 feet north of Ustick Road. The site does meet the city's desired intent for urban infill development. It borders Caldwell High School, Brothers Park, and is closely linked to the YMCA there. There are a number of subdivisions to the east of the project zoned R2, and we are excited to bring this quality development where there's needed housing in the city. As Katie mentioned, the comprehensive plan designates this for medium density residential, and the land use policies in the comprehensive plan encourage the use of a planned unit development in areas that qualify for infill, which this site does. The comprehensive plan zoning also supports that R2 zoning, the comprehensive plan policies. The R2 zoning is supported here with the medium density residential development and is compatible with the adjoining uses in the area. I would point out that as we're looking at that existing zoning map, all of the portions to the east are R2. And where it looks like there's a lot of R1, it's actually all of that is the school and then is the park. So the vast majority of the zoning around this is R2. That roundabout, I'll also point out, down at Ustick was just completed, really increasing the capacity here and is, again, consistent with the comprehensive plan. And this really, I think, is the perfect zoning for this area. Again, just wanted to note that while it looks like there's a lot of R1, a lot of that is the park and the school. So here we have the project, if this clicker will go. Beautiful. Okay. So this single family subdivision has an access onto South Florida Avenue. It is restricted, the geometry of the site really kind of restricts the accesses. So we're able to take one access onto South Florida Avenue. It consists of 72 single family residential lots, 13 common lots, and one shared driveway on the northwest corner of the site there. The average lot size comes out to 4,642 square feet with a residential gross density of 5.25 dwelling units an acre. The total open space is 2.45 acres, with 1.6 acres of that open space being qualified as usable open space, which comes out to an 11.6% open space requirement, which is above the PUD requirements. I would like to point out that over half of the lots point back up to some sort of green space. So all the lots on the northern area there will back up to the baseball field and Caldwell High School. All of the lots on the diagonal east side back up to the low-lying canal. So there will be, as Katie mentioned, we will be updating the plat to show a pathway along there. And then all of the interior lots pretty much face some sort of pathway or open space. So we feel like we have made the most of this site. It's a great site. We've worked around the site configurations and constraints, but we're really proud of the configuration and then the amenities package that comes with it. We feel like we've met the call to make this a great site and utilize the existing features. We anticipate that this could be built out in 2 phases. So we'd start on the southern half. We will stub access to our neighbor to the west and pull sewer there. So that would be the first phase. And then the second phase would come in the northern portion. The planned unit development process is intended to provide flexibility, intended to provide some relief from the provisions of the ordinary zoning ordinance in exchange for an innovative and attractive development, which allocates appropriate areas for open space and recreation. Here, Jhawk has been carefully designed to be the type of attractive, highly amenitized development that PUDs are designed to incentivize. And as outlined earlier by staff, the project meets all the statutory findings for a PUD set forth in the City of Caldwell Code. Specifically, the site qualifies as infill development and is compatible with existing neighborhoods and the design of those neighborhoods. The project proposes a variety of residential building types with a range of lot depths and widths, providing really a variety of housing products and hopefully price points as we are able to provide different housing product there. And finally, the geometry and location of the site supports a finding for a PUD. There's a number of pathway connections that this site is required to make, even though it's a kind of a pretty small 13.7 acre site. We have pathway connections actually on all sides of the site, which is a great thing and also is supportive of that PUD. A big portion of the PUD, as discussed, is the amenities. I'm thankful for Katie for passing out that amenities package that we've provided. And I will speak to some of the optional amenities that we discussed and then the required amenities. So we do meet all of the required amenities for the PUD. And then with the optional amenities, I believe that there are certain matters in the code, and I haven't memorized it, but that do check the exact boxes of those optional amenities that are outlined. One are basketball courts, which we have a basketball court. 2 are pickleball courts, so we have 2 pickleball courts. A playground, which these are all listed in, I think it's 1107A, and then it lists them out. Okay, so yes, a playground, gazebo, and then the other ones that we've provided are a gazebo, a fire pit, and community gardens. I think all are going to foster a great sense of community. This is a relatively small site, so it's going to be an intimate community, and we're really excited to provide 6 of those amenities that we think all check the box in meeting this standard. Again, this is a fantastic location, and we believe that we have met the call with these amenities provided. As requested, we have a couple modifications through the PUD process. One is a modification to the rear setbacks. We have rear setback requested as outlined here. In the red would be a 14-foot rear setback, and as outlined in the purple would be a 9, did I get that confused? 14 feet in the red and 9 in the outlined purple here. So the 9-foot would be block 2, lots 2 to 10, and the 14-foot rear setback would be block 4, lots 2 to 5. And so those would be the rear setbacks. And I would like to note that we won't be utilizing the full setback waiver for all lots. The purpose of this is to add some variety in the product type and the depth of lots. So some of these might use all of the waiver or all of the variance. some might use just a portion of it, and some might not use any part of this modification. It's really to provide a variety in the housing product. Second is a reduction to the minimum lot size. We would request a range between 3,413 to 5,206. And again, that's to provide varying lot products and housing products there. And third, we are requesting relief from the communal parking stalls within the subdivision. This is a relatively small project. It's less than 14 acres. So we really believe and we sincerely believe that all of the amenities within the subdivision are going to be walkable from every house. There are central pathways, there are sidewalks that connect everything. And so we really think that the extra parking is not going to be needed here. Additionally, each house is going to be a 2-car garage with a 20-foot driveway, allowing for up to 4 cars to park in each house. So again, we really don't think that off-street parking or on-street parking is going to be needed, or additional communal parking. And finally, the street widths are all 37 feet. So in the instance there is a guest or an occasional need for on-street parking, those streets would accommodate that. Finally, we are in agreement with all of the conditions of approval, with one exception. Conditional approval number 8 requires that we comply with all requirements from the city engineer department memo, and we have one request to that. The engineering memo under the street section, requirement number 3, requires that and asks the applicant to construct curb, gutter, and roadway improvements from the project site all the way to USTIC, so all the way south, which is an uncommon request.
10 minutes
is
to
it okay
wrap up your,
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, this is the last one. And the burden of constructing those improvements where we don't own that property all the way to the south, so all the way to USTIC Road. Those parcels are all big enough to develop eventually, and so we submit that should be the requirement of future applicants as they develop their frontage, as they come in and redevelop and put those improvements. Thank you for your consideration and listening to our subdivision this evening. So thank you. I will stand for questions.
Thank you, Ms. Mueller. Any questions for the applicant from commissioners?
I have one question.
Commissioner Boutros.
When you ask for waivers, are those waivers reducing from the R2 designation? So we're not R1, we're R2, and then you're asking for waivers to reduce those lot sizes.
Chair, Commissioner, yes, I believe so.
Thank you.
From the R2.
Other questions?
Yeah, I just have
Commissioner Larson.
Yeah, Chair, thank you. Clarification on, so the planning and zoning presented that they would have the pedestrian and bikeway paths. Would yours meet yours as it is right now with their adjustment to your waiver with your lot sizes to meet all of their adjustments to Cougar Pathway?
Chair, Commissioner, yes, and I might have missed exactly what Katie said, so to answer that question, I might have to have her repeat it, but I believe that we're in compliance with all the requested pathways, the major and the micro pathways, in addition to putting a pathway along the canal.
Okay.
Can we ask Katie, would you mind confirming that?
Chair and Commissioner, yes, they do have their pathways. They just would need to meet that condition for that pathway along the canal.
Okay.
And
I guess, is that pathway in the packet for the current? No, so we have to add it?
Chair, Commissioner, sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes, it is in there as a condition. It is one of the ones that I modified. I believe that it's condition 29.
Okay, so it's in the new modified conditions and finding of facts inclusion law?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, may I ask, are we good? Yeah.
If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Chair, thank you.
Yeah. Your name and address into the
Riley Werner, 1307 East Lone Creek Drive. Part of the reason for the waiver request for the setbacks too is because we had to put the major pathway system through the middle of the site. And so if you can see those two sets of lots where we're asking for the waivers, there's a major pathway that is going between those lots on the rear. And we have to put landscape buffers on both sides of the pathway system. So part of that is we didn't have the depth there with the road section width to be able to have the lots deep enough to actually build the products on because of that, because of the pathway and then the landscape buffer, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Riley was actually in favor of this, signed up, but not to speak. So any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So in addition to Riley, who signed up not to speak, we also have John Bottles in favor, but also wrote that he would not like to speak. So that will move us on to those assigned in neutral. And I have Clay Brown signed up to speak. Welcome. Go ahead and read your name and address into the record, please, Clay.
Clay Brown, 20616 North Antrim in Greenleaf. I was involved in the sale of the property representing the Dennises, and I think I've heard it mentioned twice that the property borders Brothers Park on the west, and that's not correct. There are two personal residences that back up to the west of this subdivision. And at the last neighborhood meeting that Mr. Dennis and I attended, the plat that was presented to us by Jhawk Engineering showed two access, maybe shared driveways back to those they are two separate parcels. And so I'm just here because I want to make sure that the Dennises have resaleable property. I think we made that pretty strong when we agreed to the deal. And so that was my concern. It looks like the plat has changed a little bit. And so I was just looking for some clarification because I thought in one of the earlier agendas, it showed two shared driveways, and tonight it says one shared driveway. So I was curious what that change was. And I can see from the drawing that it looks like there's access to the properties, which was important to me to make sure I've clarified for the Dennises. And there is no, my understanding, there's no public access from the subdivision to the park. I know they wanted to be sure that they hadn't given away any access that the neighbors, the kids are going to be going across their property to get to the park. It doesn't look like that, but those are just some things I guess tonight I'd like to make clear. Unfortunately, my client, Mr. Dennis, had a little cardiac event before Christmas, so I know he would have been here. He might be here on the virtual site. I'm not real sure. But just based on what I've seen and heard tonight, I guess that's what I wanted some clarification on. That it looks like there's a shared driveway to the northwest, and I don't know if that's going to include the personal residence or if that's just for those other lots on the north that looks like 2 or 3 of them have to share, or is that going to go through the subdivision into the Dennis's property? So
yeah,
those are kind of what I saw tonight that I just had some questions on.
I appreciate that. So then I would ask maybe the applicant can address that in the rebuttal.
Okay.
They'll have the opportunity to rebut. Yep. And was there anybody signed up virtually for this one? I don't know. Okay. All right. So that is all those that spoke to testify. So then I would ask Ms. Mueller to come up if she would like.
This might be the right time for Mr. Webster from Caldwell School District to make that statement.
He didn't sign up to speak, and he provided a testimony. Okay. All right.
Wasn't the question I was trying to address, but I can.
All right. Name and address into the record, please.
Paul Webster, 1502 Fillmore Street is my work address. 1216 Falcon, home. And on behalf of the school district, I think to answer your question, I think we have the capacity to serve those students that would live in 72 homes there. Our primary concern was getting kids to school safely. The access to the park is a big question mark there, because it looks like there's access, but I don't know that there really is. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I think kids need to get to school the easiest way and the safest way possible, and it's a great spot for houses.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right, then, Ms. Mueller.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, appreciate those comments and the questions regarding the driveway. I'll go ahead and click back to the plat so we can all be on the same page. Wonderful. Okay, so with regard to the access to the property owners to the west, the plat has changed just slightly since our neighborhood meeting, and it has changed for the better. So it used to be a common driveway on the northwest and a common driveway on the southwest. That common driveway on the northwest is still available to be used by the neighbor to the west. But what we've done is actually improve the access on the south. So now they have a full street section stubbing to their property. So that would enable and enhance their development opportunities and saleability in the future. So we think that that was a really big improvement for our neighbors. And the second thing, talking just with Caldwell Schools, we appreciate that. We certainly will continue to work on, I think, with the condition of approval, working with them on access. There will be a pathway, as we've discussed now, along the canal, and Caldwell does have the same low-lying canal pathway all along the eastern border. We have the stub directly into the school site, which is shown there as Common Lot 24. And I will just then say also, as we're talking about access and what's on the west side of our property, I didn't mean to misspeak when I said that Brothers Park is to the west. It's not immediately to the west. But again, when we were looking at that zoning map, all of that R1 was mostly the park. So I apologize if I misspoke there. We are not directly adjacent to the park, but are providing the pathways in hopes that one day there will be annexation or development, and those pathways can step. Any questions?
Any final questions for Ms. Mueller?
Just for clarification, is that lower access road the primary ingress egress for those two residences to your west?
It could, I mean, yes, it's there are two residences, they're owned by the same party. So we do have, yes, a larger street, and then there are two accesses.
But they don't
primary.
have alternative access some other way that we're not seeing?
Correct.
Okay, so
Yeah.
this is, and that will be a public road?
Correct.
Okay. For the northern path, what is currently looks like it's shown as lot 28, that is the shared driveway that you discussed. Does that go outside or connect to your west, or is that only for the use of the lots that are adjacent, the lots 25, 26, and 27?
Chair and Commissioner, it would be able to be used by the property owner to the west.
So it would go through?
Yes. Yep, it connects there. And one other thing, Chair and Commissioner, that I'll add is where the public street is down there, Jhawk Street, that is where they take their current access. So they don't have to alternate where they're accessing their home from.
Thank you.
Yes, thank
Chair,
you.
Commissioner Larson.
can we have planning pull up GIS so we can see it? Just so we're all on the same page? Because I believe we have the same understanding, but I'd just like us to all be able to look at it.
While they're doing that, any other questions? I have a question for our Public Works Director in regards to the suggested modification to the condition that was on, and maybe, I guess you can't do two things on that screen at the same time, but there's a suggested modification in regards to the gutter development up through USTIC. I would love to hear your take.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. I understand the concern of the applicant, and it is a little bit unusual to require frontage along the parcels that are not within or not considered out parcels of the current development. The reason why we contemplated this in this location is because the roundabout was completed and the improvements run actually north of the intersection a little ways. And so connecting that gap is something that's desirable to the city. In this instance, where this development has very little frontage, they're contributing very little to the transportation system. And so that's why we felt like maybe this was an appropriate ask. However, I'm happy to reevaluate, and what I would recommend is that if the commission is, as part of their recommendation, if they want to leave that as an option or maybe a to-do item, that engineering can meet with the applicant before it goes to city council, we can get that nailed down one way or the other and have it presented before city council.
How big is the improvement that's outside of the area?
So the improvement can vary. It's really doing the frontage on the west side of the property. Since the city does not have all the right-of-way, it would not be a complete frontage. It would probably likely just be curb and gutter and maybe the asphalt patch. If we had all the right-of-way, then it would be the curb, gutter, sidewalk, and the entire frontage, but we don't have that. And so it would likely be just a fraction of what normally would be required for a development. I don't know the exact length, but I know that the roundabout, and maybe the applicant has a better idea of this than me. I was not the one that put the staff report together, but I am somewhat familiar with what was asked here. And so I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the frontage would traverse 4 parcels. And then the last parcel, or as you get down to the bottom, you're connecting to the roundabout taper leg that's running to the north.
Thank you.
Could you zoom in and we can see the 2 house properties right next to their lot?
Yeah. Chair and Commissioners, yes, you can see it's labeled where I think they currently take access as Helena Drive, so that will go away. But they will ultimately take access to their homes the exact same at their exact same point.
So ultimately, Helena becomes Jayhawk
Correct.
with the development. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Any final questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So that ends the public testimony and reports for this section. So I would entertain a motion to close public testimony.
So moved.
Commissioner Larson made that motion.
Second.
Second for Commissioner Boutros. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now it's time for us as a commission to discuss the merits of this and hopefully come to a conclusion or a decision rather.
So I stand corrected on
Commissioner
my
Boutros.
interpretation of the R1, R2. So if the surrounding area really is zoned R2, the question becomes, are those with the waivers that are being requested tonight, or does this create a unique situation? And it still seems excessive to grant the waivers. So doing an R2 without waivers, I think, is actually going to be what's compatible with the area.
I'm not sure if I'm fully tracking what you're saying. So as opposed to a PUD with the R2 PUD with waivers, you're saying no PUD?
I'm not clear on whether or not a PUD is an essential part of it. If the waivers are not granted, does that also vacate the PUD and then it's just a straight up R2 or what?
Planning and Zoning, Morgan B. Saw. The PUD is an integral part of this development. So to have it not be a PUD would fundamentally change what they're able to do on this site. And part of the PUD code is that you're allowed to request waivers.
Mm-hmm.
The purpose of the PUD is to allow flexibility to do more unique layouts and site designs.
Mm-hmm.
And in exchange, the city's receiving more amenities, better amenities, And so that's the balance, that they're either you're allowing flexibility with the code in order to receive more open space, more amenities, et cetera.
Thank you. Could we bring the plat back up?
I think there's a lot of open space on this.
And say that
All
to the
of
mic.
it.
That's what I want to explore that for a minute.
Yeah, no.
Is this what you would like to see?
There was a different image that showed the waivers and the setbacks. And there was a discussion about a walkway that went in between.
In school.
One of those main.
I don't think it went. It was an east-west. I don't think it led to the school. This
one doesn't
something
have
like
the
that.
colors.
So in between the bank,
Yeah.
this image, in between the two banks of homes that are outlined in what actually looks blue, not purple. But that walkway through there is the reason I believe that was described why the setbacks are reduced.
That was my understanding, yes.
Yeah.
And it appears that the path kind of goes between those two banks and straight across and into and outside, west of this image.
Yeah, I see. If it can be zoomed in, I don't know. It looks like the green line on the horizontal green line, but that would dead end, I think, at the private residences. And then there's another narrow path that goes north that currently dead ends at the baseball fields.
24.
Mm-hmm.
24.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that being thought about as a way for students to get to the high school? And do you need an agreement from the school district to change something on their side of the property so that the student can get access without crossing the baseball fields?
I would imagine that the new condition in which we're explicitly requesting them to collaborate with Caldwell School District will kind of hash this out. I don't know if all the parties that need to be at the table are at this table at this moment, but I do appreciate that added condition because I do hear Mr. Webster and Mr. Phillips who provided written testimony about this. So this is an area of concern. And to kind of go back to the point of, I think that this is a good use of this space. It's definitely an infill in an area that could use diverse living options. And so I appreciate that condition because it gives the parties that need to be at the table the opportunity to be at the table before a decision or as part of the decision to be made if we're council to approve this recommendation. More discussion?
Yeah, I think I agree with most of what you guys are saying. My only concern is the possible concern brought up of the two houses, having people go through their houses to get to the school. I don't know if there's anything to do to prevent that, but that's the only concern that we can't control, so.
Mm.
I think with a small parcel, they did a pretty darn
Yeah,
make everything work.
speaking to the mic to make sure we can, yeah. Commissioner Harmon.
I just was saying that with a small parcel, to get all this on there is pretty good.
I think that this is a good use of that. I know one of the variants that they requested is the parking, but it is a smaller lot, so there's not a parking lot. I think you certainly would sacrifice some of the paths and some of the green space if we were to put a parking lot in such a small space. And so I thought that this was a creative use of this. I appreciate the late exhibit with the different amenities. And really just kind of the thoughtfulness and incorporation of the paths in our master path to allow Caldwell to be as walkable and just a place where people can move and get around easily. So I'm in favor of it with the updated conditions that's presented in the staff report. And I think if Rob's okay with it, I'd be
Yeah, I'm
willing to vote in favor of that suggestion of maybe there's a meeting in regards to that frontage. Which condition is it? So if we were to make a motion that we can reference that, the one,
It is in the engineering staff report under streets. I believe it's item number 3. And I've got that right here.
yeah.
It should be on page 135 of your packet. Yep, streets, item number 3.
So I guess I'm suggesting that we approve as presented, but as amended with an opportunity for the developer and engineering staff to meet to discuss item number 3, and to come up with to present something to council prior to going to council.
I'm not opposed to what you're saying, but I don't think it's, if they're not gonna have to do everything, I'm not opposed to leaving it as is. But I think, yeah, I'm fine with your suggestion as well. Because if they're only gonna have to do a portion of it because they don't have eminent domain and they'd have to seize property, I think they're not gonna be able to do a lot anyways.
Rob?
Chairman, Commission, and just a reminder as well, this development, it was not obligated to do a traffic impact study because it did not exceed that threshold, but it is still required to contribute mitigation. And so the mitigation could go toward this, or we could find a way to just work through that with the applicant.
Any other discussions?
So, Commissioner Larson, are you suggesting that we leave the language as it currently is in the engineering report, or do we want to give the engineering department a chance to negotiate the specifics with the applicant?
I'm fine with giving the engineering department a second chance, but I think what they've suggested is not unreasonable. So if they can find something better that they can work with the applicant, I'm fine either way. But I just know that the developments help with us developing roads and sidewalks. So I just want to help whatever their percentages they can help cover to help the city.
And it looked like engineering was agreeable to the informal working with the applicant.
Yes.
And I think that, I mean, they could land with the same request before council, the staff can, and it doesn't pin them into a corner where they couldn't make that same recommendation. It just allows an opportunity for the parties to kind of get into some nuance there. So that's why I'm in favor of it, because I think it just allows for an additional option.
Okay.
Yeah, if seeing no other discussion, I would entertain a motion and related to this case. Do you want?
Yeah, I'm fine with running the motion.
Okay, Commissioner Larson.
I move that case number ANN 22-027, SUB 22-44, PUD 22-11, based upon the testimony and evidence and records in this matter, upon the finding of facts and conclusions of law set forth herein, do by determine and move as follows, that the request for ANN 22-00027 for annexation with a zoning designation of medium density residential with the development agreement of SUB 22-44 and PUD 22-11 for a preliminary plat for the Jhawk subdivision planning unit and development is recommended for approval based upon the finding, facts, and conclusions of law and the adjustment of the right-of-way item number 3 on page 135 to be adjusted with engineering to look at the application to adjust possible frontage with the applicant to see where they can do to help with the city transportation.
All right, there's a motion, Commissioner Larson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Harmon. All right, roll call, please.
Larson.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Zamora.
Yes.
Boutros.
Yes.
Whitbeck.
Yes.
All right. So with that
Sure.
motion,
Chair, I just want to clarify, were you guys also recommending approval with the modified condition from staff?
that was my understanding of what the motion was. Is that what?
Yeah, with the findings, facts, and conclusions law as it written out by you guys.
Today in the presentation?
Yes. Which, I guess to clarify, you told them that they couldn't have those, what we're talking about right here with those subdivisions with their setbacks for the minimum lot size?
That was part of the PUD.
No, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Then yes, that's what it was for, with as you had it written.
Thank you. All right, and with that, I'll close this public hearing and move on to the next action item, which is, again, changed in order for those that are following along. So I'll open the public hearing for case number CPM 23-12, CON 23-10, SUP 23-6. Kimley Horn, on behalf of Dome Church Apartments LLC, is requesting a future land use map amendment to change the designation of parcel R0265300000 and resolution, and R0265700000 from traditional neighborhood to high density residential, to include approval of resolution 322-23 associated with CPM 23-12, a rezone from TN traditional neighborhood to R3 high density residential with a development agreement and a special use permit for an affordable multifamily development with 152 units. The application is being submitted in conjunction with a lot line adjustment application and a vacation application to combine the two existing parcels and adjacent vacated right-of-ways into a single parcel. This site is located just south of Interstate 84 between North 14th Avenue and North 16th Avenue in Caldwell, Idaho. And with that, staff report, please.
Thank you, Commissioners. Katie Wright, Associate Planner, 621 Cleveland Boulevard. Before you is Dome's Church Apartments, CPM 2312, ZON 2310, and SCP 2316. There were two late exhibits. One was the same letter from Caldwell School District. They include both developments on that letter. And then another from Canyon County addressing previous map boundary concerns. The project location is 6.1 acres on the southeast corner of 14th Avenue and I-84. The site has frontage along I-84 and 14th Avenue. The project site is currently surrounded by Interstate 84 to the north, Hope Plaza Apartments to the south, vacant land to the east, and manufactured homes to the west. The applications before you tonight are for the site as a whole. There's a comp plan amendment request to change the designation from traditional neighborhood to high density residential, a rezone from traditional neighborhood to high density residential, and an SUP to allow for multifamily development in the R3 zone. The site was originally annexed in 1960 and zoned traditional neighborhood. Tonight's request consists of the applicant's proposal for a rezone to high density residential. The proposed development is surrounded by traditional neighborhood, R1, R2, and R3 to the north, M1, which is light industrial and traditional neighborhood to the south, C3, which is service commercial, C4, highway commercial, R2, R1 to the east, traditional neighborhood, C3, C4, R3 to the west. Staff finds the high density residential zone is compatible with the surrounding traditional neighborhood and the commercial and industrial zones. The current comprehensive plan designation is traditional neighborhood, and the applicant is proposing high density residential. The proposed comp plan designation and development of the proposed high density residential is consistent with the intent of the comprehensive plan. The site is surrounded by traditional neighborhood, medium density residential, low density residential, environmentally sensitive to the north, traditional neighborhood, commercial service, manufacturing production to the south, commercial service, medium density residential, manufacturing production to the east, and traditional neighborhood and environmentally sensitive to the west. The proposed densities for the proposed high density residential designation are in compliance with the comprehensive plan. The proposed land use of multifamily development requires an SUP, which is a part of this application. If approved by the Commission, it is contingent on the approvals of the rezone and comprehensive plan application. The applicant is requesting a development consisting of 152 units in 4 apartment buildings. The proposed development project has been analyzed for compliance with city codes and policies. Public agencies were notified and asked to provide comments. The only agencies that had concerns were Caldwell School District, commenting the applicant should be aware of connectivity through pathways and public transportation, and staff has received 0 comments from the public by the time of this hearing. Site-specific conditions are as follows. Approval of these applications is contingent on the approval of the lot line adjustment 2313. The applicant shall show bike parking in the landscape plan prior to construction drawings. Xeriscape shall be utilized for this development in accordance with the approved landscape plan. And then staff recommends that the commission strikes condition A4 due to further communication between the city and the county. The map has been adjusted to show the correct property lines. That is referencing to the late exhibit that you were provided from the county. Staff recommends that if the P&Z Commission approves and recommends approval of the request, that such request is subject to the conditions as specified in the findings of facts, conclusions of law, and order of decision. And I stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wright. One question I had, I'll start, is traditional neighborhood. What can you define what that is?
Of course. Give me 1 second and I'll give you an exact. Are you wanting the definition out of the comprehensive plan or out of the code?
Well, what is, like what's applicable here, so.
Okay. Chair, the traditional neighborhood in the comprehensive plan says the purpose of this district is to create a centralized pedestrian-oriented identifiable focal point for neighborhood districts. This category includes land that is suitable for a blend of medium density and high density residential, small scale commercial, entertainment, educational, office, and open space uses that are geared to serve residents within a 1/2 mile radius. And then that residential density range would be between 5 and 20 units per acre.
Thank you.
And then.
Oh, and that was from comp plan.
That was from the comp plan.
Chair, could I comment?
Please.
Since we're doing that kind of correction on page 35 that's currently on the screen, it says 14th Avenue. Should be 16th Avenue.
Thank you, Commissioner. You are correct.
About that.
And then in the code, Chair and Commissioners, it is stated that the purpose of the traditional neighborhood zone is to protect, enhance, and revitalize the historical traditional neighborhood areas in accordance with the comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Yes.
Questions for staff from commissioners? Commissioner Boutros.
As always, I have questions, but I would like to give the other commissioners a chance. Yeah.
Commissioner Larson.
Chair, couple questions, not to sound, I don't know, not like we're looking at minutia here, but on page 13, the proposed use will not cause any damage, hazard, nuisance, or other determined to persons or properties in the vicinity, and that this is only physical damage, correct?
Chair and Commissioner, I apologize. Could you give me the section of the staff report that you're referring to?
Yeah, 19, required findings and approval standards, special use unit, special use permit. And then I had a second question on that one. So that's the top bullet point. And then the bottom bullet point says the proposed use does not impact the ability of political subdivisions, including school districts, to provide services for the proposed use.
Chair and Commissioner. Okay, I'm finally caught up. I apologize. Okay, so for the proposed use would not or will not cause any damage, hazard, nuisance, or other detriment to persons or properties in the vicinity. Are you wanting clarification on?
But that's only physical damage, right?
Essentially.
Okay. And then the second one seems interesting to me, that how we can determine whether they can provide services. Or the last one, the proposed use does not impact the ability of, mostly the most important to me, I guess, is the school district. The other ones are also important, but how are you guys determining that it doesn't impact it?
I would guess that's for us to decide in our decision making.
So that
would go through, that would provide the opportunity for those noted in here to provide a testimony to state otherwise.
And that's why we just need that affirmative statement from Caldwell School District for this application as they did for the other application.
And I think, I mean, it'll be up to Mr. Webster if he wants to come up and speak. I do think that the absence of a no in this case, when they have the opportunity to provide, you know, they're informed, that for me, the absence of the no would be an affirmative for the most part. We have had other stakeholders in other cases over the years provide definitive no's, or certainly provide that testimony.
However, that's not the way the ordinance is worded. I think that in the past, we've assumed that no response is agreement, but in fact, the way the law is phrased, you need an affirmative statement. And I've made those requests, and Planning and Zoning has gotten on the various agencies and gotten them to submit. Even a no comment is adequate. It means they're paying attention. And in this case, we do have a letter from the Caldwell School District, but it omitted that affirmative statement. So it's a very simple matter to do that, to show that, in fact, those criteria in the SUP are being met.
Yeah, I think it's here nor there. I don't know if I agree with you. I think a lack of response is a no comment, which follows the kind of the logic that you just provided here. And certainly, I don't think we, as a commission, can impose or require others to respond to us.
Well,
so if they choose,
it's the law requiring it.
Sure, then that onus is on them. We can't force them to provide that. So we are provided the information that we're provided, and we make decisions based off that.
Except the law says we cannot approve an SUP unless we make that legal finding.
And
Should
so
we do this in discussion?
Yeah,
anyway?
and I was so
yeah.
Yes.
Any further questions for Katie?
Yeah, sorry. So just to clarify,
Commissioner Larson.
the only reason I brought it up is it feels like that Planning and Zoning staff was telling us that it's not having impact, which I don't believe that's true. So I felt like it just shouldn't be added as a bullet point, was my concern, because that would, as Alex suggested, and as I believe we would make a decision, because it doesn't feel like that's a true statement.
Chair and Commissioner, you guys will have the opportunity to decide that if you were to recommend denial or deny the SUP. These are the criteria that you look at for that, and so if that's how you decide, you have the opportunity for that.
Have any other questions? Okay.
Commissioner Boutros.
What is the Caldwell 23 project? In the applicant's cover letter, they mention something that's happening right by this development that is called the Caldwell 23 project. I've never heard of it. Is it something that's already approved? It looks like it may have 504 residential units. What is this?
Chair and Commissioner, I will defer that to the applicant. I have no answer for you.
Okay, so that's a particular problem.
It appears that Rob might have an answer for you, or has some information at least.
The Caldwell 23 project is a large multifamily project that is going in right up at the intersection of Commercial and 21st Avenue on the north side, adjacent to the interstate. You may have noticed there's a lot of earthwork going on up in that big open field there. And that's kind of up behind it's kind of to the west of the Sage truck stop, right up there on the top of the hill. Yeah.
Does the access for that project in any way impact the access for this project on 16th Avenue?
That is a complicated question. The main access for the Caldwell 23 project is going to be right out onto 21st Avenue. And it's going to dump out at that intersection at 21st and Commercial. But if I remember correctly, as they get into their final phase with that many houses, they are supposed to negotiate or have some kind of an outlet to the west, which I believe puts them out onto 16th Avenue, up in that area, but I can't remember exactly what street that is. So let me just check real quick here.
Chair, while he's looking, I did have another question. Sorry.
Yes. So ultimately, they will have a back road that ties into 16th Avenue. And I think that was a fire department requirement for that large multifamily development.
Are you able to describe for the project, for the Caldwell 23 project, the building heights, building layouts, and any waivers that may have been granted to that development that could potentially reflect on tonight's application?
I cannot. I haven't looked at that application in a couple of years. They did go through and they have approval, and so it's all at the city somewhere, but I am not prepared to speak on that specifically.
Thank you.
Commissioner Larson.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Just clarification on page 17 under the CC 10-02-02 for the bulk requirements and dimension standards. For the minimum interior lot square footage, minimum corner lot square footage, and minimum lot square footage, the proposed all say not applicable. Could you provide detail on why that is not applicable when it says required, and then you can just put not applicable?
Chair, Commissioner, since this is not a plat, you don't have to look at specific lots, so there won't be specific lot sizes. This is 6 acres, so it's not problematic. It's not meeting the 5,000 square feet that's needed, or whatnot. Yeah, 5,000 or 6,500. Since it's not being platted, it's well over all of those requirements.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay.
Other questions from commissioners?
I'm only starting.
Oh, that's fair, but let's see if any, while we transition. Okay, Commissioner Boutros.
Okay. Currently, the application states that 14th Avenue is going to be closed. So if 16th Avenue is the north-south access down to that area where Chicago branches and becomes part of it becomes Franklin, will the other cross streets be available to folks? For example, will 16th Avenue connect to Elgin because Elgin connects to 10th Avenue?
Sir, Commissioner, I believe engineering may be able to talk about that.
Well, let's give engineering an opportunity to answer that question.
Apologize. Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Will 16th Avenue connect to any east-west roads like Elgin on north of Chicago? Because currently Elgin connects to 10th Avenue, and that area can be very congested as traffic queues up for the traffic light at the interstate.
So 16th Avenue does connect to Elgin currently. That's the, and then it connects to Elgin, it connects to Denver, and then connects down to Chicago. So there are 3 points of connection onto 16th Avenue. Does that answer your question?
Yes. I had an additional question, but I don't think you're going to be able to answer it or you partially answered it, where the traffic from the Caldwell 23 project was going to be routed. So we need to consider that with the connectivity to 10th Avenue through 16th and either Elgin or Denver, that traffic from the Caldwell 23 project could end up using that road as an arterial to get to 10th Avenue.
Yes, that is correct. Some of the traffic is likely to use that back road and then 16th Avenue. And as they complete design, they will have a significant amount of mitigation they will owe, and some of that will likely go to these some of these back roads to improve them and help them accommodate the additional traffic.
Okay, so I'm going to jump a few items down in my list. On the traffic impact study, it mentions an intelligent transportation system that's going to be installed on 10th Avenue from the railroad overpass to I-84. Can you say what that intelligent transportation system is?
Well, intelligent transportation system, that's part of a federal project, and the objective there is to get all the traffic signals interconnected so that there's a timing sequence in a corridor, basically a corridor, so that traffic that's flowing one way or the other doesn't have to stop as frequently, and it just helps traffic mobility.
So that may reduce congestion at the Elgin and 10th Avenue intersection.
Yeah, it may. There's a lot of moving parts here. 10th Avenue is also going to be receiving some raised medians as part of that project. Some of the access points are going to be restricted to right-in, right-out access points. And this is all for safety and mobility. And so there's kind of a lot of moving parts going on in this area.
Thank you. I had a question about zoning issues. The only nearby residential, it looks like the Hope Plaza Apartments. And then, of course, the Caldwell 23 project is going to be pretty close by. But there are manufacturing facilities and other industrial uses that are inconsistent with any kind of residential use, all right there. We, the commission, need to understand if there is some larger plan to convert all these uses to residential, or what's going to happen. But right now, sticking 4-story walk-up apartments in the middle of truck yards and a manufacturing facility does not look consistent to me. It seems like it should go one way or the other. And I would be okay if the long-term plan, for example, said all of the current manufacturing and commercial uses will eventually be zoned for residential, but that's not what we're seeing. I would like to understand all of that, the big picture.
Chair and Commissioner, I don't know what the comp plan rewrite has for this area. I don't know if Morgan can speak on that at this time yet. But there also is the Notice Canal to the south, providing a buffer along the highway. Obviously, there's nothing that's interfering up along there. They're also providing all of the land use buffers that are required with the code. They still are surrounded by that traditional neighborhood, which in nature is a little more residential heavy. It does try and provide that walkable environment, but it does tend to lean more towards high density residential. I believe that if you were putting any other type of zone that wasn't traditional neighborhood, high density residential would be suitable.
I don't know that I agree. I think the absence of information is a problem that we need to explore more, so that what we end up approving is consistent with the long-term usage of this area.
Isn't the comp plan getting rewritten anyways? So
Yeah.
It's not something you can look into the future just yet with.
So Planning and Zoning, Morgan Besaw. The comp plan amendment is underway currently. There have been some surveys going out. There's some more public involvement happening. In fact, next month in February. This process will probably take a year, but we are looking to have a draft of the map out this spring. So we are hoping to have that portion done. And after some preliminary looks at the current map, it does appear that a lot of these areas that were zoned or identified in the comprehensive plan as industrial within our downtown core, our main city center, kind of where this is at, we are looking at identifying those as residential or business or commercial or something moving forward, and trying to move the industrial further away from our residential and commercial areas. So it's not a guarantee. There's still a lot of rounds of public comment and drafts to be reviewed, including by this commission. But that's the direction we are currently looking and can anticipate it might be moving.
Okay. So another issue is the xeriscape, which is the dry landscaping, because this development has no irrigation water rights. And for the way residential development in Caldwell has been built out to date, it usually has some irrigation water rights, and they do have some green plantings. In this case, the fact that they have no irrigation water rights seems to make it more consistent with an industrial use rather than a residential use. I don't know how important that's going to be. I also had an observation now, both of the applications that we've seen tonight, the fire department has approved a single access because all residential units are going to be sprinklered. And I know that that is something which is becoming more and more common. And is that now a new standard for Caldwell? Has the city council decided that will be the new standard for Caldwell? Because it is apparently the new standard in many, many places.
Chair and Commissioner, our fire chief typically looks at two different options depending on either secondary access for a certain amount of units. If they can't meet that, they say that having each unit sprinklered is sufficient alternative.
Yeah, and I'm not disagreeing with that, but it seems, I'm wondering if that is now a new standard. Should we expect to see more of that?
Chair, Commissioner, I wouldn't say I've noticed either way. I would say that some are still providing adequate secondary access rather than the sprinklering. I think it just kind of depends on the layout of the site and if secondary access makes sense.
Not state code, right? Fire sprinklers, it's not state
This
code.
is set by the International Fire Code.
Yeah.
This is not a
Yeah,
code
it
set by the
seems
city.
to be something that's more and more common
Yeah,
and acceptable.
It can't be
And in fact, I looked into the failure rates, and there are 1 in 16 million failures that cause leaks.
You need to
Do you
ask
have
questions.
additional-
Discussion.
Yeah, that's.
I'm just
It-
saying,
it'll
I'm
take
just,
what-
I'm just
it'll
saying
take
you
what
need to
it
ask.
takes.
Commissioner Boutros,
I'm just saying
call
you
this
need to
meeting
ask
to
her a
order.
question.
Bring it back to order, please.
Okay.
So right now we're asking questions of
All right.
staff. So questions, please.
We have 4-story walk-up buildings, is that correct?
Chair,
They're not
Commissioner.
served by elevators.
Um,
I'm seeing yes.
Two.
Okay.
Chair,
So I'm sorry, I
Commissioner,
didn't
yes.
get the answer to the question.
So in the land use chapter, goal 2, it states that a goal is to create a strong sense of community or a livable community. Here's the question. How does a 4-story walk-up do this? In fact, it appears that a 4-story walk-up is the opposite of this goal, and that it creates a daily misery of repeated trips to carry things up and down stairs.
Chair, Commissioner, I believe the applicant will have a lot of answers for you. Specifically, what type of homes or units these will be will answer a lot of the questions that you have.
Thank you.
I'd like to first thank you. Just make sure, like, as we keep our focus questions during the question period, certainly there's opportunity for us to dialogue and share these opinions. That happens as a commission after we close public testimony. If you need questions answered to get to that point, feel free to ask the question, but the additional commentary, yes, because it allows us the opportunity to have a dialogue. There are certainly things that I would like to share with, I just don't necessarily agree always, or I do agree and I want to be able to affirm that or share my thoughts. And so that happens once we close public testimony. Any further questions of staff?
Chair, could I get clarification?
Yes. Commissioner Whitbeck.
Language used that 14th Avenue would be closed, but there's still access up 14th Avenue. Is the language different, or is 14th Avenue actually closed or just closed to this?
Chair, Commissioner, based on what is expressed in the plans and what has been submitted, they'll be closing access that currently exists off 14th Avenue, and they'll be utilizing 16th, which is the one to the south.
But 14th Avenue will still access the adjoining property.
Sorry, Chair and Commissioner, 14th Avenue won't be closed itself. It will just be closed to this parcel.
That was my clarification. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? If not, then we'll move on, thank you, to the applicant or the representative. We have Nicolette Womack signed up. Please say name and address into the record, please. And you have 10 minutes for your presentation.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you for your flexibility with the schedule, and I apologize for the tardiness. I'll try to be efficient with the questions and the presentation as I can. So tonight we're here with Domes Church. Virtually, if we could give them permissions to speak, that would be great. Melanie Davies from DevCo, is on the line, and Abby Hahn, our civil engineer from Kimley Horn. I am a planner, so I'll do my best with the civil engineering stuff, but Abby's available for us too. So just super high level, DevCo owns and manages over 10,000 affordable and market rate units. They've been doing this for quite some time, so they have a lot of really great data they gave me to cover. So this project is affordable housing, and there's always a lot of questions on what that means and how true it is. And so we're here to tell you the information that we have to date. So part of affordable housing is that you have to get a loan from the federal government in order to actually construct it. Part of that loan is getting approval from you guys. So we're working through the process tonight. The goal is that with that loan, we'll be tied into these requirements. All of the units on our project are 100% affordable, meaning every single unit will meet these qualifications. That loan includes income restrictions for 30 to 50 years, so that's the time period. The price point of the project, it includes a income eligible analysis, and that means that people will qualify if they are between 30 to 70% of area medium income of Caldwell. And I'll go through that data just in a second. We do have a good portion of our units that are 3 and 4 bedroom units that can include families, and I can go over those percentages if you'd like them. That loan, this is the Idaho Housing and Finance Association. We will be including green building standards, which is high efficiency lighting, ventilation, irrigation, and water saving measures. Some of the market data real quick. So that income eligibility, right now, and this changes as things actually open, that is between $35,000 and $62,000 for a family of 4 would qualify for these units. The market study, when they selected this site, there's quite a bit of research required to qualify these loans, showed that 3,800 so units qualified based on their income eligibility. 3,800 households qualified within the area, and only 1,000 affordable units are actually available today. So we have about 2,000 or so people who are not able to be housed within the proper price point. When we looked at comparable properties in Caldwell, a 3-bedroom goes for approximately $1,850. And the price point of this unit still gets all the way through construction and opening. We're estimating will be 25% lower than the going rate. And I'll go into that more. So again, already covered, we need a comp plan amendment for high density residential, a rezone with the development agreement, and a special use permit. And I'll go over why in just a minute. So we had our pre-application meeting back in August, had our neighborhood meeting, which no one showed up for in October. We submitted in November, and we're here tonight. Please bear with my speed. So this is our site. It's a real wonky shape. So just trying to explain what's going on. There is a portion labeled 16th Ave that runs through the 2 parcels that are not highlighted within the red. We are working with the city to vacate that right away. It doesn't really have much use, doesn't serve anything, and it would be better to be part of the project and relieve the city's maintenance concerns. And then there's a odd piece that ITD actually didn't even know they owned, and then they figured out that they owned it. And then they have this little odd corner on the highway. And then, of course, the county was working through deeds, and they realized that the shape of the parcel also didn't match the deeds. So that is where they came to the conclusion through additional research with all the surveyors and all the experts to make sure that we had the right shape. So this is what we got. For a little bit of context, the church is looking to relocate and put the proceeds from the sale to build their own church within Caldwell. So that is why they have entertained this proposal. I'm not sure if anyone on the line can screen share later, but we do have a site plan from Caldwell 23. I'm not sure based on your records if it's most up to date, but we can walk you through that project. But again, 504 units with office, retail, and light industrial. It is zoned C3. A little bit of context, which some of you are very familiar with. C3 used to also allow multifamily. It doesn't anymore. And TN used to also allow multifamily, which is why they talk about it in the comp plan. It doesn't anymore. So the only zone that allows multifamily to do something like this is this zone, which is why we're asking for it. And then just super quickly, 16th Ave access is the one that we're using. This has a lot to do with where the canal is, and there are two bridges to get over the canal, one on 14th and one on 16th. The one on 14th is not able to hold any substantial volume of, or medium-sized volume of traffic. And so in order to allow this price point to come in to what it needs to actually be affordable, we can only improve one bridge. So we'll be improving the bridge at 16th. So again, change from traditional neighborhood to high density residential. Super quick observation. You'll see traditional neighborhood in the northwest, kind of past that turnoff from the highway. That is more of what you might think of as a traditional neighborhood in downtown Caldwell. It's more similar to what people say, the North End in Boise. It's, a little bit more that's long-standing original lots of record. And then again here, we're asking to do a traditional neighborhood to high-density residential, just to keep everything matching and consistent. Property shown here, 6 acres cumulatively, 152 units, 56 one-bedroom, 48 two-bedroom, 32 three-bedroom, 16 four-bedroom. That means that's approximately 1/3 one-bedroom, 1/3 two-bedroom, 21% three-bedroom, and only 10% are four-bedroom. So it's actually pretty low. We meet the required densities of the zoning, and we meet the required parking, which is 1.5 spaces per unit. We meet the 10% open space required. We include multiple amenities, which are 3 open park areas. We'll talk about a little bit more. Clubhouse, picnic area, dog park, that includes areas for large and small breeds. And thank you for all of the questions. We'll do our best to address as many as we can, so feel free to keep throwing them at us. On alternative compliance, this is a hard thing to understand without graphics. So here we've shown you our landscaping plan. The yellow areas, we'll start with the normal grass that everyone's used to seeing. So the turf grass is the dark green areas. You'll see that over by some of the buildings, the clubhouse entrances, basically the amount that we can reasonably irrigate with the little resources we have for this site. And then the yellow areas, they are still they're still grass, but they're a native seed. So they're drought tolerant, drought hardy. They take a little bit of water that we can bring on the site to get everything established, but generally they're a lot less work long term. A lot of those fringe areas are near canal easements, and so it'll be better for the canal company as well. And then the few areas that we do have a xeriscape of some kind, there is dry landscaping shown in the brown patches around the building, and then there is literally just rocks and mulch only in the parking lot areas. So on this landscaping plan, you can see those trees and shrubs as well. So it actually is going to look very well landscaped. It's just going to be a lot more drought tolerant. Shown here is the building A elevation, C. They're substantially similar, D, from one another. They have varied roof lines, a significant window fenestration. And then on the elevator comment, part of building affordable housing is reducing things that some people will see as, extravagant. I've personally lived in many apartments that didn't have elevators. But if that meant I could save almost, a few $100 on rent, it made sense for me and my family to actually walk up those stairs. So these do not have stairs. That reduces the cost for construction. This is the clubhouse. And then we agree with all the comments and conditions working with staff. Super appreciate working through so many odd details on the site. On bike parking number 2, if we have flexibility to work out additional locations for the bike parking that might not be on just the landscape plan, we're good to go. Mapping boundaries, sounds like that's all gone because we got it all figured out. And otherwise, we will stand for your recommendation of approval, and I will take a breath.
Thank you for that speedy report.
Yeah.
A lot of information. All right. So with that, questions for the applicant, for Ms. Womack. Commissioner Larson.
Yeah, I have a couple questions. So just to clarify, so the number of parking spots, I believe it's supposed to be 228, not 220.
220, correct.
228, 152 times 1.5 is 228.
I need to look at the exact math. I don't know it off memory. Abby is on the line as well, and she might have access to the formal plans. So if she's able to.
So just to clarify that,
Yeah.
some things you brought up for the native seed. Do you guys foresee any weed issues for whoever the HOA that's going to try and manage the area?
Can I get access to moving? Oh, there we go. I'll come in. Our landscape architect is on top of this. They're very familiar with the short-term establishment and the long-term maintenance as well. So it'll be part of the property management process.
Okay. And then just clarification on the ITD parcel. Were they, did you clarify what it was for? It looks like it might have been for an on-ramp, off-ramp. Is that what the original intent was?
Chair, Commissioners, when they built the highway a long time ago, they just kind of did it by deed, and they didn't really have a precise way to kind of work through some of these things. So they realized that they had a lot of scraggle pieces left over, and this is one of those scraggle pieces.
Okay, so they had no intent or use for it now. Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Yep. Other questions for Ms. Womack?
I have a question, Chair.
Commissioner Whitbeck.
So I might have missed it somewhere, but as far as sound buffer or fencing along the freeway, what is the plan for that?
Chair, Commissioners, the open space and the landscaping that's provided is the main treatment there. We did look at Caldwell 23 for consistency, and that is what they showed as well. So there's not a sound wall. So. And I'm not sure if they're on the line and can share.
Chair, Commissioner Larson, I do want to address the parking. So they have an additional 13 ADA spaces, so it exceeds the 228.
Okay, so the total is more than 220?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
And some of the individuals have signed up, so maybe they can answer some of those questions when they come up. Other questions for Ms. Womack? All right, well, we'll see you again in a bit for rebuttal.
Thank
you. Yes. So signed up next is Jay Hans on Zoom. And Jay has signed up to speak.
I have no comment. If I'm with the applicant. I have no comment but I am here to answer any questions if any arise.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Next on the list, also on Zoom, is Abby Hahn. And sorry, I didn't say this for Jay. We do have PO Box 4108, Bellevue, Washington for address. And then Abby, if you also want to say your address as you introduce yourself.
Yep, no problem. Yep, I'm Abby.
Oh, Abby, we can't hear you cutting out. Unable to hear you still. Abby, maybe you want to try to sign off and sign on. We have a few others, and we can bring you back on when you in a few moments. So I'm going to move on, and we'll just try Abby again here in a moment. We have Melanie Davies signed up on Zoom. I don't know if she wants to speak, but Melanie, if you do, you're welcome to speak and state your address and name into the record.
Hi there, I'm Melanie Davies. I am with Devco Development, the applicant for the project. And the address is the PO Box 4108, Bellevue, Washington 98004. I am available to answer questions, but I don't have any comments at this time.
Thank you. And then we do have one more person signed up in favor, and that's Mitchell Wixom. Did you not want to speak? Okay, thank you. but signed up in favor. All right, is Abby back yet? Or Abby, if you can hear me, maybe try speaking, see if we can hear you. Okay, she's been readmitted to the Zoom, so we'll wait a moment. We appreciate technology, but sometimes it's wonky. If, Mr. Wixom, go ahead and come up and name and address into the record.
Mitchell Wixom, 417 Larkspur Court in Caldwell. Just mainly a resident, born and raised in Caldwell. I drive past this lot every single day, and as many of you know, it is starting to deteriorate and become more and more of an eyesore. And speaking on behalf of the also agency representing the seller of the Domes Church, if they aren't able to follow through with the sale with the approval of this, it's, you know, no telling how long it will sit there. The church can't afford to rehabilitate this property, and really there's not many other options at that point. So as a citizen, that's not something I want. Also, to reply to your concern about being industrial, I know I don't want more industrial in my view. I would much rather have good-looking apartments. That was my only concern, was the look of the elevation, because the apartments that were approved on the other side of I-84 are not the best looking apartments off of Moeller Lane by the church there. These look much better, and I'm very happy to see that. Other than that, big thing that will help the city is, as of right now, this is not a taxable lot because it is a church, and that's a nice chunk of income once it becomes taxable. And then just as a, once again, as a resident, having more people in downtown will, of course, boost business to the downtown area and hopefully drive more businesses to come in, which me living close by would love to see that. I love what's seen going on in downtown Caldwell, and excited to see more businesses want to come with more housing involved. And as a realtor in the area, affordable housing is a desperate need for Caldwell, and I applaud it. So.
All right, thank you, Mr. Wixom.
Thank you.
Could we have Mr. Webster just?
There is a request, if you would like to accept it, Mr. Webster, for you to come up and provide
Answer your
your
question
assessment.
about
Yeah.
numbers.
Name and address.
Paul
please.
Webster, Caldwell School District, 1502 Fillmore Street. And in reference to your question about whether we can meet the capacity with 152 units, I think we can. I am concerned with that alongside the 300 or however units are next door in the Caldwell 23 development. Yeah. And, you know, it would take some rezoning. The zone is currently, the school is currently zoned for probably can't handle that, but across the district, I think we can. So, and in general, I, you know, can affirm what, you know, the previous speaker shared is we need affordable housing. You know, we serve lots of families that can't afford housing, working hard in our community and living in inadequate spaces. So it is a need in our community, and I think we support that, and we support infill as opposed to pushing out. So I think yes or no question, we can serve them. We probably will have to do some planning, and it'd be great to kind of have an idea of when it was coming on board. I know these things take time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Webster. Is Abby back on?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you great. Perfect. Go ahead and say
Okay,
your name and
sorry.
address to the record.
Yeah. My name is Abby Hahn. I'm with Kimley Horn. My business address is 1100 West Idaho Street in Boise, Idaho. And I am just here to stand for any questions. I think the only question I heard come up so far was the parking, but sounds like we've got that taken care of. So, yeah, I'm available if anything else comes up. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. And then the only other person signed up was Janice Thurman in neutral position and not wishing to speak. All right. So with that, no one else signed up to speak, so I will ask Ms. Womack to come back up for a rebuttal for no more than 5 minutes.
Chair, Commissioners, I will try to speak slower now. The only items I wanted to bring up, I ran out of breath to do so earlier. Regarding Commissioners' questions about damage, great questions, great discussion. I really appreciate you guys take your job seriously and ask these things. Part of that is, yes, the physical damage, but also this site is very internally oriented, naturally buffered from all the directions. So that is a great advantage of this site. Also, the impact on schools and services. It's important to note that all projects are going to have impact, and I think the code and state law really did anticipate that. But they did put the onus on making sure that they can withstand the impact, that they can grow together and work through these things because they knew cities were going to grow. Regarding the TIS, my understanding is that it did include Caldwell 23 in the analysis, so hopefully that puts some of those concerns at ease. Regarding the idea of this being great for an industrial site has a lot of heavy vehicles that either are too large or too heavy to go on those bridges, and that's why you haven't seen industrial there to date. The only thing that was on there was the church because the people that were going to church drove, standard vehicles. So just important to know, the world of financing for affordable housing has extremely tight timelines. It's hard to find a site, get a site permitted and constructed to qualify for that loan within the timeframes that each loan period is. So we're on a pretty short timeline. Let us know if there's anything we need to work out, but we'd love to just keep moving. And there's also a timing with the irrigation season when we can do those bridges. So we have to get plans designed, approved, and constructed before the irrigation window closes. And I'm speaking faster than I intended. But looking at this letter, this is from your own Caldwell Economic Development Department. And just something that I wanted to point out is they said that this aligns with their goals for revitalization area. It offers hardworking Caldwell families a chance at affordable housing near employment on Industrial Way, Sky Ranch, and North Ranch Business Park. So we're excited to bring this project forward to you guys. Let us know if you have any questions, and we'll do our best to keep working through them. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions?
Yeah, Chair, I had one question for the applicant. Sorry.
Commissioner Larson.
The only question I said is how are you making those income assessments? What were you guys looking at to make that assessment?
Yes. Is Jay able to speak? He has a little more familiarity with the loan process.
Yes. So we.
And this is Jay.
This is
Jay Hans from.
Okay, thank you.
DevCo Development speaking. So we look at the area median income for Canyon County. The assessment here is 60% of AMI, which we will also we will most likely income average this as well. So we will have between 30% and 70% AMI, still balancing out that to 60% of the area median income. So that is about in between 35,000 and 62,000 for a family of 4.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Ms. Womack. All right, we're at the time of the agenda where I would entertain a motion to close public testimony.
So moved.
Was that you, Commissioner Larson? sorry,
Yeah,
I was looking
sorry.
away.
Yeah,
Commissioner
so-
Larson made the motion, and I heard Commissioner Harmon make that second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, now we are in closed session, so it's time for us to dialogue about the merits of this and get to a point where we can make a motion.
This is a very difficult problem.
Speaking here,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, Commissioner
It's a
Boutros.
difficult problem to face. I really don't like four-story apartments, but I understand the economic incentive to have those additional housing units in there. But I will tell you from personal experience and from where I was raised, how difficult it is to manage stuff up and down the stairs in a four-story apartment. I think 4 stories is the wrong answer. I would like to see some kind of a replan that limits them to 3 stories.
I hear you, and I also, as I'm processing through this, reflect on the need for affordable housing and high-quality affordable housing with amenities, such as this project here. And for me, I would imagine just having that opportunity to have access to the quality of living space and the amenities. There are certain trade-offs, right? Like, and so certainly, if you want to live in a larger building with an elevator, to the point made during one of the testimony was somebody has to pay for that, right? And so, and that's just the reality of the life we live, the place where we live, that it has to be paid for by something. And so I hear you, and I don't disagree that it would be a lot to climb up 4 sets of stairs with a bunch of groceries, and yet people get to make that decision to do that if they want to have access to the amenities. So I hear you and respect that, and I feel like considering what this is serving, I can support that, and I'm okay personally with 4 stories.
For clarity, what amenities this development?
The dog park, just the new homes,
Clubhouse.
the clubhouse, and all the various ones that are we have access to in our packet. Other comments?
Well, and in those
Commissioner Harmon.
in those industrial areas too, you know, even Sky Ranch and all that, I mean, we need workforce housing. So I think that's a good location, good spot. And I get the bridge thing. I mean, that makes sense for the manufacturing, that they can't, you know, access that bridge.
Just for the record, I have 2 concerns. One is the concern of not having some kind of solid barrier between the freeway and this unit. And the other is to drive up 16th is an extreme bottleneck already. And to put our larger, we would need our largest fire apparatus to get in there. And only having one access, even though the fire marshal has said it's okay, would still concern me.
And they did say it will be fully sprinklered.
Correct. But the turnaround ability and congestion problem is, in my opinion.
Sure. Thank you.
So one other issue that I have is the compatibility and what the long-term zoning is. And what I heard from staff was that it's possible that the long-term plan for this area will be to rezone to residential, which would give us consistency and compatibility. But what do we need to do in terms of either setting conditions or making other plans to ensure that that happens, hopefully before City Council? Is it possible to accelerate the comprehensive plan replan to show that the long-term plan for this general area is to go from commercial and industrial to residential?
Morgan Bisa, Planning and Zoning. It wouldn't really be appropriate to condition the comprehensive plan on this application. They're very, very separate, so the application would be standalone. But I think that if you want to see a change in this area in the comp plan, it's simply important that you as the commission come participate, attend all the public outreach events, make sure your voice is known. The draft plans are going to come to you for review and comment. And so that would be an appropriate time for you to say, we really think that this area needs to move that direction.
Thank you.
I appreciate that specification. I think serving in our roles that we are sitting in right now, we do have the opportunity to have some influence and some say in the dialogue around this. Certainly an opportunity to voice our opinions. So I think that would be appropriate, although it is not as timely as probably you would like, what I heard you say, but we certainly have that opportunity as commissioners and as citizens. For those out there, there's a lot of public opportunities still to participate. So please do, because that's part of our process, is to get the public to participate.
And I think we still have a lack of information on the details of the Caldwell 23 project with regard to building layout, building height, and so on.
I don't disagree, because I actually was surprised by that, but that's been approved and that's not before us at this time. So,
right.
Although they influence one another, certainly, but I mean, for me, it merits the discussion is at hand, is the case before us.
And certainly, if Caldwell 23 project had approved 4-story walk-ups, it would make me feel a little bit more comfortable with that in this case, because there's a precedent that's been set. But if they're at some lower height, that makes me uneasy and may force, or not force, it gives additional justification to opposing a 4-story walk-up.
Mr. Larson?
Yeah, I'm mostly for the project. The density is a little concerning to me, but I mean, I think it's a cost of doing business. It's a cost of growth, is that we gotta, and this is what I brought up to planning and zoning earlier, is that I feel like as us need clarification on what types we need and what percentage and what types. And so since that doesn't exist, I think that this is needed because we do need affordable housing, but just clarification on what types we need would be super helpful, because currently I don't think we know, hey, how many R1s or R2s or R3s, how many types of home types do we want for the city, big picture. So that's my only concern, but I think it's okay. It's just a little concerning that it's pretty dense.
Yeah, and I hear you. I just would add that although we don't know like the numbers of needed, I did hear 2 testimonies from 2 different individuals today that said that at least this was needed, right? So I think it doesn't help necessarily the bigger picture that you're asking for, but I think it certainly helps for me to be in support of this, because from community leaders are telling us that this type of housing, in addition to my own experiences and our own individual experiences as individuals.
So Commissioner Whitbeck, would it help alleviate your concerns about fire engine access and turnaround if funding was found to strengthen the 14th Avenue Bridge and keep that access open?
It seemed logical to me, but again, I would defer to the authorities from the fire department to know what's the best decision there.
I have no idea if there are alternative sources of funding, but I think it would help access. It would solve the fire concern if we were able to keep that second access open.
But was I not
Commissioner Harmon.
hearing it right? Didn't the fire chief already say it wasn't a concern?
Correct.
He said it was okay, but Commissioner Whitbeck has expressed a concern.
I know, but he's the fire chief.
Commissioner Whitbeck, too.
Yeah, the fire marshal is the one that made the
fire
document
marshal
and said that he's an approval of the project.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I would not hold up approval on that basis because the fire chief, or rather the fire marshal said it was acceptable, but it sounds like it would make it better if they could strengthen the 14th Avenue Bridge and keep it open.
Again, those are my words, not the fire department.
Right.
Other discussion? I'm open to entertain a motion.
Based upon the testimony and evidence and record in this matter, and upon the findings of facts and conclusions of law set forth herein, do hereby determine and move as follows. The request for ANN 2227 for annexation, zoning designation of medium density residential with a development agreement, and sub 2244 and PUD 2211 for a preliminary plat.
Wait,
that's the wrong one.
Yeah, we need to do 2.
Reading the wrong one?
Well, it's because we swapped them.
We switched it.
Yeah.
We did.
So,
Erase all that.
correct. So I would entertain a new motion.
Can I just pick it up in the middle?
Yeah.
The request for the proper. Okay, this is for case number CPM 23, right?
Correct.
I apologize.
You're good.
Based upon the testimony and evidence and record in this matter and upon the findings of fact and conclusions of law set forth herein, do hereby determine and move as follows: the request for CPM 2312, a comprehensive plan use map amendment to include resolution 32223, CON 2310 for a rezone from a traditional neighborhood to a high density residential with a development agreement, and a sub 2316 for a special use permit for an affordable multiple family development is recommended for approval, subject to conditions of approval as presented, amended.
All right, there was a motion from Commissioner Whitbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Commissioner Larson. Roll call, please.
Oh,
Whitbeck.
just clerk, sorry. A
point of order.
clarification, staff asked for us to add the strike condition for A4, so I was going to add that to the motion as well.
Yeah, was that, he said as presented, so that would have been included as that, correct? Yep, I'm getting a thumbs up from staff, so thank you for clarifying that. Roll call, please.
Whitbeck,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Boutros,
No.
Harmon,
Yes.
Zamora.
Yes. All right, with that, motion carries, and I'll go ahead and close this public hearing, and we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is adjournment. So I'd entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Commissioner Larson made the motion.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Harmon. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion, meeting adjourned.